Alright everyone, welcome back to Misericorde Volume 2, White Wool and Snow. After that banger of a first chapter and seeing what happened in the previous installment of the game, it's kind of crazy how everything still was, a little hectic and chaotic. Like, they didn't take breaks in between that, Like, Flora was going through a lot and we had to make sure she was okay. There's a lot of panicking involved, but, we managed to make things alright for her. But now we're dealing with the aftermath of all that and seeing how things go from there. So if anything else, hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for all love and support. And here we go. I remember groaning as I rolled out of my bed and padded across the floor to pick up my robe. I looked out of the window. The sun was higher in the sky than it usually was. Than it should be. I was getting ready for the day. I felt blurry and distant from myself. Last night's dramatics had shaken me deeply, but there I was, scrambling to return to the relative comfort of routine. The idea of missing service was equally as disturbing as coming face to face with something so unholy. I scrambled to put my clothes on and make myself presentable and rushed out of the door, only to see that I wasn't the only one who had slept in. Eustace, Moira, and Charity were standing in a circle around something in the middle of the dormitory. They looked surprised to see me in such a rush. Hello. Where are you off to all of a sudden? I haven't missed service, have I? Oh, bless you. We didn't have service this morning. I think the superior might still be asleep. I can't blame her. But she meant it when she said Jubilee. I think a day off is warranted given the circumstances. We can declare it a holiday for Flora. Steady on. I'm not dead. Don't venerate me just yet. Venerate. Whatever. The thing these women had been crowded around was in fact Flora, still seated in the wheelbarrow from the night before. It had been dressed up a bit since I had last seen it. A pair of fluffy pillows now lined the barrow, propped up so Flora could look forward while keeping her damaged legs straight and aloft. It looked almost luxurious. Flora's gonna need to be wheeled around for a while, but I'm hopeful the leg will mend. Honestly, Eustace, that was clever thinking with those vambraces. I don't know what I was thinking when I suggested the boot. It would have been massive on her. Eustace's knowledge always surprises me. Who knew she was a blacksmith? I'm not. I just picked up a few things at one of my old convents. Ooh, did you do a stint in Italy? I've heard that some of the nunneries there are practically artisan guilds. Yes. Sounds like it beats this dump. Thank God we had a bloomery at all. However ramshackle. I'm not technically minded. I stay away from the fancy bits and bobs we have here. What here counts as fancy? The plumbing, for one. We almost had the clock tower, too. I always forget we have our own water. There are, 3 faucets here? The privy, the kitchen, and, Flora trailed off, but shot me a look I did my best not to return conspicuously. The third faucet, of course, was in my cell. I realized that Flora had likely been subsisting on water and trips to the pantry while she had been missing. Seems like a bit of a waste. The privy has more than just a faucet, and you should be thankful for that. If we didn't have a plumbing, I might kill myself. Steady on. I'm the one with the broken leg. I'm the one who gets to say stuff like that. Don't steal my joke. Oh, I wish you wouldn't joke like that. Either of you. I'm gonna kill myself and be venerated, and then I'll be allowed to say it. As it'd be my holiday. You wouldn't be able to say anything at all if you were dead. I could say it from heaven. Wouldn't you be in hell? Sensing that this back and forth might continue for a while, I smiled at everyone and took my leave. At the very least, I was relieved to see that Flora was in good spirits? Typical spirits? The late morning sun on the landing was surprisingly bright. There was a pleasant smell in the air. The kind of smell I had cherished in my cell the day after heavy rainfall. It was so thick that I felt like I could take a bite out of it. I opened my mouth and chomped, a bit like that dog I had seen in the village. The fresh air was rejuvenating. After the scare you all went through, yeah, you could use some fresh air. I took the stairs down toward the cloister. I knew I had so much to do, so much to be worried about. Firstly, I needed to reiterate to the superior exactly what had happened. That there was indeed a monster, and that my investigation was effectively over. Was I wrong to think so? Flora and I were attacked by what surely seemed to be an impossible creature. It was certainly not Eustace. Eustace? I frowned as I reached the bottom of the stairs and considered her Misericorde prank. Something was amiss with Eustace. But she was not the mysterious attacker. The longer I thought about this, the less sense her practical joke made. Was she so cruel? Truly mean enough to simply do it for laughs? Or had she earnestly been trying to warn me away from some deeper mystery, as she had told me the eve before? I considered the magic circle, and the demon that attacked Flora and I. There was something nasty afoot here. Something evil. I did not like this idea at all. But I was starting to discover that I did like being correct. Who doesn't? You know? It's nice to be vindicated. And so, despite it all, when I broke out of the shadows of the cloister onto the path toward the garden, I was smiling. I caught the scent of fresh flowers in the breeze, and quite overwhelmed by the sensation, took another pretend bite of the air in front of me. What are you doing? Margaret and Darcy were standing by one of the hedgerows, looking at me quizzically. Well, the flowers just smell so good. That's true. You might have had better luck with your nose, though. They do smell quite good, though I would not mind a bite. How are you two? Oh, you know, making the most of it all. No use wasting a day off. No rest for me. I need to go get lunch ready soon. Would you like some help? If you don't mind. Hedwig? Of course. I hope I did not sound like I was protesting. Darcy smiled and clapped their hands together gently. Wonderful. We all started walking back toward the kitchen at a leisurely pace. So, Flora is safe. What a relief. Indeed. I should make her favorite, which is... Darcy furrowed her brow and kept walking, evidently rummaging around in her head to remember Flora's meal of choice. Will you be writing all this up as part of your chronicling duties? I suppose I must. I hadn't thought about that. I don't envy you. That's gonna be a few pages at least. That's very possible. I do tend to truncate though. I'll manage. Not one to embellish? Not typically. I prefer to be succinct. I stopped giggling. That was true. Back then. One of these days, I should actually read some of our chronicles. Aren't Catherine's gone? I vaguely remembered Eustace refusing to let me see any of Catherine's writings. Yeah, but they go back donkey's years, I think. Well, before Sister Catherine's work, even. I'd honestly never considered looking. Really? You never get curious? Or bored? Bored? No. Curious? Perhaps, but... This might sound silly, but surrounded by all those books, quite literally surrounded there are old chronicles stacked up on the desk. The thought has just never crossed my mind. You're a writer, not a reader. I understand. I've read every book of the Bible and no short amount of commentary on it as well. After that, what's left of value to read? I did recommend the Divine Comedy, yeah? I do think you might like that. Oh, yes, I think you did. Duck sausage. Is that what Flora might like? Flora's favorite is duck sausage. First I've heard of it. We arrived at the kitchen. I felt a wave of embarrassment as Darcy entered the room, remembering the mess I made on the hunt for Eustace's Gaylead bowl. What the? Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention this. I knocked over all the cookware last night when I was looking for that bowl to hold, you know, for Flora. It was dark, and the cat jumped out at me, and there I went. Ooh. Yes, the cat is a bloody nuisance. I suppose I should thank it for keeping the kitchen mouse free. But I don't remember ever seeing a mouse, and I think I would like it to be cat free as well. No creatures in the kitchen at all, I should think. Why was when Darcy speaking the I was lowercase? I don't think that was a typo. I think that was done purposefully. Like right now, see? Only once I'm about to cook. Here, here. Darcy bent down to start collecting scattered kitchenware, and Margaret and I quickly moved in to help. Thank you. My back is not good enough to do this sort of thing by myself. You do too much by yourself. Honestly, it makes me feel guilty. I do what I like to do. Company is always nice though. And between you and me, the pots and pans, the meal preparation is about to get more complicated. Really now? Why is that? I heard we might be getting some new oblets. I dropped the utensil that I had been trying to return to a high shelf. Ah, I'm not as tall as I think. Where did you hear about new blood, Darcy? Eustace has been muttering about it. I think she and Superior have been discussing the logistics of it or something. Eustace probably doesn't want more grubby little hands touching her books. When will they be here? Do you know anything about them? Have no clue, I'm afraid. How fun. You won't be the new girl forever, Hedwig. Indeed. I was distracted, imagining throwing myself in front of whichever cart would be bringing the poor souls to Limbarrow. Surely there were better convents. Any other convents? Communities without whores, ghosts, and dead women hanging around? I wonder if their transfers are really new. If the bishop is here, I have to assume they're actually new. She made a cutting gesture with her hand. You'll have to get your shears out for soup, Darce. Oh yeah, I suppose I will. Poor things. Those first few weeks of having a scratchy head are no fun. It's one of the few things I remember clearly that far back. And then the rest of it isn't that much fun either. Bit of a scam, really. Something about Margaret's tone here caught me off guard, and despite the sacrilegious sentiment, I found myself letting out a small chuckle. Whoa. Are you feeling alright, Hedwig? I was bracing myself for some banter. It just surprised me, that's all. And I do feel for new oblets. It probably will feel like some sort of scheme for a while. It would be a scam if it wasn't the truth. That's right, Darce. That's what I was preparing to say when Hedwig got upset at me. But she didn't. But I didn't. Catherine did say we'd make a Limbarrow girl out of you yet. That she did. In truth, I was completely preoccupied with worry. If I hadn't been thinking about the lion's den these new women would be walking into, I probably would have given Margaret the chastising she expected. Anyway, keep it a secret. It is a secret to everyone until the Superior announces it. Speaking of, is she awake yet? I hope so, or is she gonna miss lunch? Hedwig, would you mind checking in on her? I thought we'd hear the end of it if she missed lunch. I'd do it myself, but, well, laying low. Yes, of course. And I can come back to help with cooking if you need me. I think we'll be alright, actually, if you want to go get some writing done before we eat. I imagine you have lots to add today. My goodness, I suppose I do. Chronicling. What an inconvenient task I was saddled with. How would I be able to describe all that had happened last night? Writing the plain truth as I had seen it would look like the ramblings of a madwoman. Freed from sweating it out in the hot kitchen, huh? Lucky you. Go on then. Margaret shot me a playful grin as I made my exit. The noonday sun blinded me as I left. I was not used to things being this bright after being awake for such a short time. It was a cold brightness. The earth felt crisp and brittle, the exact inverse of how the world had looked and felt only hours prior. My head still felt rather swimmy. I felt calm, but I didn't trust myself. The day was proceeding like any other, but it should not have been. I thought back to the blackness of the night before, when I had stared up into the sky, soaking wet and freezing cold. When I shut my eyes and begged for another chance, perhaps I had been granted it. I had escaped the darkness and emerged into this stark world of light. When I arrived at the Superior's door, I was feeling oddly resolute. Things were falling apart, but they had not fallen apart yet. No answer. No answer still. I reasoned that she had already risen and turned to leave. But just as I did, I heard a muffled voice. Who is that? Oh, it's Sister Hedwig, your, superior. I could hear the door being unlocked. Was she drinking? Come in. Quickly, now. Superior! Quiet, please. Sorry, I should have let you sleep a little longer. How late is it? Just before midday, I think. Good Lord. She stumbled over her ostentatious chair and collapsed into it, then beckoned for me to step up to her desk. How'd the others? Quite well, all things considered. Flora's taking to her wheelbarrow with aplomb, and Darcy's preparing luncheon. All is right in the world. And as a relief, ugh, I really should just declare it a holiday. You really should. You look worse for wear, you know? Like you could use more rest. Everyone seems to be under the impression that you did... Oh, that's right. What was it I said last night? Jubilee. Jubilee. She weakly raised her hands and waved them mockingly before collapsing them on the desk, leaning forward. Would you mind letting everyone know? I think I may be indisposed for the rest of the day. Of course. But as I said, I think the others might have already assumed the day was forfeit after service failed to happen. Don't be so judgmental. We all had quite a night. I didn't mean... She held her face in her hands and groaned and pulled her cheeks down somewhat comically, accentuating the bags under her eyes. My apologies. I tend to assume the worst when I'm tired. I need to spend some time with you catching up on the events, but not today. My mind must repair. I understand. I hope you will be able to be as forthcoming as possible when the time comes. I apologize for my attitude last night, but I can't apologize for the sentiment behind it. I simply cannot deal with any more nonsense, least of all from you. Well, miss, if you actually believed me when I told you we saw something unholy and supernatural, we wouldn't be in this predicament, or at least having this conversation. I trust you. I have to. Do you understand that? That's why you're here. I understand that amongst the others you have a role to play, but when it's just you and me, I expect the truth. Which she gave, Superior. And I don't think I should have to demand it from you. It should come freely and without obfuscation. Almost cannot pronounce that word. No ghosts. No fairies. No, I don't know, Merlin-esque trickery. Tell me what is real. Yes, Superior. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? Of course, Superior. If I may, the details I tried to tell you. A creaking sound emanated from the room next door. The Superior frowned and leaned forward. Not now. I nodded, not understanding in the slightest. The Superior rose to her feet somewhat shakily and began walking toward the door, speaking louder and clearer than she had before. Please tell the sisters that they have a day off to do as they wish, and do tell Flora that I am relieved beyond measures that she is safe and on the mend. I gave a little bow of my head and exited the stuffy office. I entered the rectory to find the sisters seated for luncheon, a veritable feast laid out in front of them. There were bowls of pottage, piles of roast carrots and other vegetables, and slices of bread laid out on the wooden carving boards. The centerpiece of the whole affair, however, was Flora, positioned at the head of the table where the Superior would typically sit. While most of the sisters were sitting in askew chairs around the room, Moira, Adela, and Catherine were standing next to the poor girl's wheelbarrow. They were helping her spoon stew into her mouth out of a bowl resting awkwardly on her stomach. It was a bizarre tableau. Everyone turned to greet me warmly as I shut the door. Everyone except Angela, who was sitting closest to the door, nibbling away at a small plate of food. I suppose she was positioned as close to the exit as she could be, no doubt to make one of her dramatic exits if somebody upset her. Ahem. Forgive me. I should not embellish things so. Hello, Hedwig. Welcome. We are celebrating our wounded hero. So I see. How are you feeling, Flora? Can't complain. She was grinning widely. For someone who disliked being around people so much, she certainly seemed to enjoy the attention. She looked like a king on a day surrounded by attendants. Oop. Careful. Some of the stew had missed Flora's mouth and landed on her wimple. Moira immediately began wiping at it with her sleeve, which jostled the bowl and threatened to create even more of a mess before Catherine steadied it. Only a few hours had passed without the threat of supervision and things had descended to total abandon. The Superior bade me to tell you all to officially consider today a day of rest. A cheer went up around the room. That's honestly a relief. We've had our hands full helping Flora out. You mean pushing me around? Am I that heavy? I think that barrel weighs more than you do. It's a good thing I didn't break my leg. Ho ho ho. I frowned at this. I didn't need to defend Charity from her own jokes, but something about it still bothered me. Sit down, Hedwig. Darcy and Margaret prepared us a wonderful luncheon. And since there's nothing else to do today, we can take our time and relax and recuperate. I took a seat and prepared myself a modest plate out of the dishes on offer. Oh, the superior also asked me to tell you that she's relieved and happy that you're well, Flora. That's nice. Did she tell you anything else, Hedwig? Ooh, yes, tell us. I don't think so. What about? Oh, she definitely told her. Everyone except for Angela adjusted their chairs to get a better look at me as I ate. I really don't know what you're hoping to hear. Yes, you do. The new omelets. She didn't say anything specific about new people. But she did say that tomorrow would be a busy day. That means yes. That means yes. Ooh, how lovely. That'll make this winter much less lonesome. What are we? Chopped liver? No, but you know me. I like making friends. I hope they're closer to my age than you lied. I hope they're closer to my age than you lied. Ooh, I don't know. We only have the one extra chair in the cloister. Maybe there's one young and one old one. Oh? How would you know? Well, I wouldn't. Spill? There's nothing to spill. It certainly sounded like you know something we don't. I know a lot of things you don't, but I don't know how old either of them are. Either. Look, that's a figure of speech. No, it's not. I do not think it is. I misspoke. She wiped her mouth and pushed her chair out. I'm gonna go and enjoy this crisp air while I can. Oh, look at you, trying to avoid the situation. Either. The sisters began to chant the word in unison as Eustace left the room. I cannot say for sure, but I think I saw the flicker of a smirk on Eustace's face as she left. As the door closed, the chanting died down slowly. There were a few giggles mixed in too here and there. A pair of new omelets. They must think we're about to pop it, Charity. I just might if they're half as rowdy as this lot. Ho ho. Could you all be a touch quieter? Thank you. No. You are a bit outnumbered, Angela. Don't remind me. She stood up, primed to say something. However, she appeared to think better of it, shook her head, and, well... Look, my observation about her penchant for dramatic exits isn't completely unwarranted. Perhaps we can exchange her with one of the new sisters. Surely there's a convent out there in need of a nosy bitch. Catherine? You're right, I'm being unfair. Angela's worth the pair of them. She comes with two faces after all. Enough. Am I wrong? Not in the slightest. Which is why, that's enough. I like it when you and Angela fight. Makes me feel like I'm watching a joust or something. I train my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Your mouth too. Come on, let's go for a walk. Oh dear, I'm in trouble. She's taking me to the gallows. Farewell, my friends. The louder Catherine spoke, the more of the sweet scent of wine I could smell. A day of rest indeed. Can I have your room? Absolutely not. Margaret led her friend out of the room. Is anybody else getting a little tired of their fighting? Angela and Catherine? Well, it's a bit complicated. The fighting or your enjoyment of it? Both, I suppose. It is rather funny sometimes. Catherine does have a way with words, but Angela has an iron will. I find it exhausting. I do wish they would just make up. That'll never happen. Oh, I don't know. Stranger things have happened. Not many. Adela's correct for once. It'd be a miracle among miracles if Catherine and Angela ever saw eye to eye again. Thank you for such a sincere compliment, Martha. I don't know what you're talking about. Martha let out a derisive chuckle and waved this apparent insult away with a hand. I am Spanish, Adela. I'm well aware. I'm glad you worked up the courage to insult me in my own tongue then. Better than muttering under your breath in whatever godless language you usually curse with. Italian? One more godless than that even. Malhat? That's the one. You know, just because I like Catherine and Angela's bickering doesn't mean I want to watch this. You're killing the mood. Agreed. Peace, you two, for God's sake. All's well. I think I finished my lunch anyway. Charity and Marta stood up to leave, Charity looking somewhat apologetic. Goodness me. I thought we were having a grand time until all of that. That's one of the problems with this place. Everyone defaults to cruelty. There must be some way to reduce the prickliness between you and Marta. I will accept responsibility for my own part in our conflict, but I will not apologize for defending myself. The difference between us is that my insults are a reaction to what she says, but hers are a reaction to who I am. Ah. Ah well. I did not wish to bring the mood down so low. I am going to go and work on the sherry since Marta is taking time off. She bowed politely, then took her leave as well. At least we all still have the rest of the day to relax and enjoy ourselves. Perhaps the holiday is just what everybody needs. How about you? Want me back up to the dorms? I wouldn't mind a nap. That sounds like a good idea. Do you mind, Hedwig, Darcy? Not at all. Either implies that there are 2 new outlets, does it not? Sorry, just been stuck in that one for a bit. That's right. That's so. Hedwig, would you mind helping me clean all this up? I'd be happy to. I went to my own chipper tone. I've been trying my best to trail off less stammerless. But I was afraid that in this instance I sounded as if I hadn't heard about or cared about the awkward exchanges in front of me. No matter what I did, I was always conspicuous. Mara and Flora departed as Darcy and I began stacking up plates and utensils. It took us several trips back and forth between the kitchen and the rectory to completely clear the table. I tried to suppress an involuntary annoyance that my day off had become a work day after all. I chided myself for the selfishness as I washed plates in a wooden basin Darcy dragged into the kitchen. The vanity of some of the sisters around me must have been rubbing off on me. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. What are you going to do with the rest of the day? Well, let me think. The garden needs tending to. Surely not. Isn't there anything less exhausting you could be doing? You do so much work around here. I hardly think of it as work most days, but I suppose you are right. I'd like to experiment. Experiment? With my plants. I grow them and pick them and grind them up and boil them and burn them and lots of other things. Sometimes I make things that are useful like the tincture I gave you the other day. Other times nothing happens really, but it's all worth writing down. That still sounds like work to me. Yes, but it's all for me, so I don't mind. I see. That's a good way of looking at it. Is there anything in particular you're working on at the moment? No, not really. I haven't had a project planned in a while. My last big one was something I was working on with Catherine, but, well, we talked about that a bit. Did we? Yes, when we were shepherding. Yes. I remember the surprising sadness with which Darcy had described Catherine's fair weather fascination with her fellow sisters. We worked together for a bit and it was nice, but now it's just me. We continued washing up for a while in silence, wood occasionally clunking against wood as I sloshed plates back and forth in the basin. Actually, that's not true. Eustace helps me out quite a bit. This is so weird that her speech is all lowercase. Oh, well, that's nice. It isn't quite the same, but I do appreciate it. I'd never seen Darcy in such a low mood even on the hill, with the sheep where she had confided in me about Catherine. She looked positively morose. I suppose she's busy today, though. Would you like my help? That would actually be very nice, yes. Oh, wonderful. I mean, I'm sure I don't know a thing about it, especially compared to Catherine, but that's not a problem. I'll appreciate just having someone to hold things. My offer seemed to give her a second burst of energy. I could practically see her accelerating to finish the last few piles of washing up. I did my best to finish what I was responsible for. Her energy was boundless compared to mine. When I began to slow down, it seemed like Darcy sped up. I must confess that I had not really thought things through completely when I had suggested that I'd help her. It had seemed like a kind thing to say, and therefore I'd said it. I had not really expected her to say yes. No, that's not entirely accurate. I had not thought through any possible responses at all. We finished stacking the plates and utensils where they belonged. Darcy waddled away, bristling with energy that I could not match. I followed her back toward the dormitory. We didn't pass anyone on the way back. I suppose everyone's leisure activities were elsewhere. Apologies for the mess. Darcy's room was even messier than I had last seen it. Her writing desk had been moved into the center of the room to hold her little cauldron, and the mountainous pile of tiny glass bottles had taken over her bed. It's no trouble. We will be standing anyway. Would you mind bringing some fire in for the cauldron? How? Just use one of the candles on the mantel. Ah, of course. One moment. Darcy set to work pawning through the bottle pile as I turned back to grab a cricket and candle from the mantel outside her room. I did not love the idea of starting a fire in Darcy's room, no matter how small, but nonetheless, I'd promised to help. Someone keeps taking those without telling me. Candles aren't cheap, you know. I wheeled around so quickly and nearly blew the candle. I just lit out again. Oh, I wasn't worried that I had to tell you about the sort of thing. I apologize. You took one? Yes, last night when I heard Flora. Well, I do keep a log of that sort of thing, just so you know. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. I understand it must have been a rather extreme circumstance. So, you heard Flora? Oh dear. Yes. She had gotten her leg caught in the big door in the landing. Excuse me. Wow, my voice. It's like I'm losing it. Bleh, bleh. I must have been asleep. It's a good thing you heard it. Indeed. Did you put the other cricket back? Oh no. I think it might be in my room still. No trouble. Just put it back when you get the chance, please. What are you doing with this one? It's broad daylight. I'm actually just helping Darcy with something or other. If you're just lighting something and putting it back, I suppose there's no need for me to log it. Where's this log? I'd never seen it. I can make sure to write in it when I take a candle in the future. Eustace tapped her head with one finger. I have a system. Oh. Should I just tell you? If you could. I will endeavor to do so. Wonderful. Her clipped speech today went beyond her typical standoffishness. Are you quite well? You know, Hedwig, it's funny. I keep thinking that a lot of incredibly stressful things have happened around here lately, but maybe I'm just imagining things. Her eyebrow twitched. It reminded me somewhat of our recent talk in the garden and made me realize what a silly question I had just asked. However, she sighed after a moment and relented. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm feeling a bit stressed today after all that business last night. I'll be fine though. I'm going fishing. She reached past me to open Darcy's door. Darce, is my rod in there? No. Wait, hang on. Yes, it is. Darcy emerged carrying a long wobbly stick with a long bit of twine fastened to it and handed it to Eustace. Thank you, Darcy. No trouble. Have fun. What are you two up to? Darcy had nobody around to help with her plans today, so Eustace looked oddly panicked. Right. I forgot about that. That's alright. I could stay and help if you like. No, that's fine. Thank you, though. Three's a crowd. It can be. Well, I'm off then. Bye for now. Eustace looked like she was considering saying something else, but she eventually swallowed whatever it was and skulked out of the dormitory. The earthy scent of Darcy's cauldron caught me off guard as I stepped into her room and closed the door. I couldn't help but cough. Oh, it's fine. She can be a bit scatterbrained. Coming from Darcy, this seemed a rather sharp barb. What is this little project you're working on? And what can I do? Well, I have some ingredients sitting around that I never had a chance to try, due to, well, all of the goings-on recently. And I thought, why not try some today as we have a bit of a day off? How delightful. What ingredients? A little of this and a little of that. I cannot say. I did not like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. As much as I'd already come to admire Darcy's prowess with the plants, I wasn't sure I trusted her with unknown ingredients. Or, more selfishly, I desperately wanted to avoid being partially responsible for anything we made, should it have some ghastly side effect. I would be nervous about toying around with unknown ingredients without someone I trust as much as you around. I assume none of these plants are dangerous? Not if you follow my lead, and avoid getting them on your hands. Oh, that's comforting. The little fire beneath the cauldron had brought the little pool of water at the bottom to boil. Darcy produced a small pair of tongs from the writing desk behind her and clacked them together happily. Now, if you wouldn't mind getting one of the bottles of henbane. Which one is that? The sort of green and black one? I scurried over to the pile of bottles in the bed and began pawing through them. Unfortunately, most of them fit the description of green and black in one way or another. Leaves and roots tend to be those colors. While there were a handful of powders in the other pigments, most were simply green leaves or furry green stems. One was full of what looked like little wooden balls that rattled when I moved it aside in search of the henbane. There was even a purple flower, which I found rather pretty. I'm afraid a few of these are green and black. Oh, sorry. Green flower that gets darker in the middle. Ah, I found it. I think. I held up one of the little bottles for Darcy to inspect. That's the one. Put some out in that little cloth and hold it out for me. Is it dangerous? Well, you wouldn't want to rub any on your eyes. But don't worry, we're going to put just a small amount in this concoction. I nervously obliged, uncorking the bottle and gently shaking the little flowers out onto the cloth on the bed that Darcy had pointed to. She picked one of the little plants up with her tongs. Then, with frankly shocking grace for someone with one free hand, she produced a small stone bowl and utensil out from the desk next to her. We are going to try crushing it and then boiling it with the other ingredients. And what will that do? No. My hope is that crushing it will bring the juices out so it will mix more evenly in the water. Ah, I see. And what will that do? We'll see. Like a mad scientist, we spent at least half an hour going back and forth like this. Darcy would call for ingredients that were stashed around her room. I would have to scramble to find them in time to include them in her clearly spontaneous recipe. I was beginning to suspect that Eustace and Darcy's friendship might be based on having indecipherable systems of organization. Eventually, Darcy seemed satisfied with what she had concocted. That looks good. It looks thick. Lots of components in this one. What will it do? That's for me to find out. She began ladling dollops of the slightly sickly-looking liquid into a round glass bottle similar to the one she had given me before the feast in the Misericorde. You don't expect me to drink that, do you? Oh, I wouldn't dream of it until I tested it myself. I have a stronger stomach than most. Don't. But she had already tossed the bottle back and gulped down what was inside. Yeah. Couldn't have used some mint for flavor. Next time. I tucked my cowl down around my ears in panic. What if this slimy drink killed her stone dead and I was left responsible? What if it made her grow wings? Or another head? I felt like anything was possible at this point. What are you doing? Testing. What am I ought to do? Calm down, please. If you stress me out before I have a vision, that's going to make it really unpleasant. But, relax. Just relax. I promise I do this all the time. It might not even do anything. I hoped against hope that this would be the case. Oh, yes, this is definitely going to do something. Is that a good thing? Won't know till I'm on the other side. Just stick close and let me know if I say anything interesting. But Darcy was already off. She wriggled past me and escaped to the doorway, chuckling like a morning bird. The precarious stand that held the cauldron nearly tipped over as she squeezed between me and it. I steadied it as best I could before chasing after her. Darcy, wait, She was already out of the dormitory. I jogged into the landing, groaning. I really didn't want to do any physical activity today. I ideally hoped that nobody would be on the landing or in the cloister. Surely I thought taking care of Darcy was a simple enough job for everyone else. If I couldn't be trusted to do that, what could I be left alone with? I hissed at her with a loud whisper, walking briskly behind as she flitted in a zigzag patterns around the landing. Darcy! Darcy! Come back! We need to get you to your room. Why do we always have to go to Mass on Sundays? I want to sleep in. We go to Mass every day. What if I went once a month? Absolutely not. Don't. Jeff flopped on top of the stone railing already and appeared to be trying to clamber over it. I want to play in the garden. Come down from there, please. We don't need any more broken legs. This was getting too intense for me. If two sisters wound up with broken legs after spending time alone with me, I worried I might end up in a hospitality cell instead of poor James. She stopped for a moment, straddling the railing and looking quite foolish. Where are we? The second floor landing. I mean in time. It's been about an hour and a half since luncheon, I'd say. I'm hungry. Dinner will be, well, not soon, but not far away. I winced, remembering that any dinner would be Darcy's responsibility. The others would be furious with me if she ended up indisposed all day. I want a treat. I need a treat. We can go to the kitchen and find something if you like. Maybe I could recruit Moira to cut us up some wedges of bread if we ran into her. I imagine she would be far better at controlling Darcy in this state than I was, even if Eustace was the real expert. I don't want to cook anything. Well, I watched uneasily as her weight shifted slowly, ever so slightly, over the edge of the railing away from me. In a flash, I remembered something Margaret had said. The cellar! What about the pantry in the cellar? Salted meat. Yum. With that, she let go of the railing and disappeared over the edge. Darcy! I lunged forward in a feeble attempt to catch her, but I heard the dull wallop of her hitting the ground before I even made it to the railing. In a panic, I looked over to assess the damage. She is high as a kite right now. Darcy was lying flat on her back, happy as ever. She stared up into the sky, giggling like a madwoman. That was fun. Can I have some of your son's mandrakes? I don't have a son. Oh, I tried to focus. This charade I could at least follow along with, however humiliating it may be. Is it such a trivial matter to you? Taking my husband? You would take my son's mandrakes as well? Have I got a deal for you if that's what's bothering you? Very well, I thought. I'd assumed she might continue at pace if I played along with her Bible-quoting game even if she was in a queer state. I was relieved that she seemed to be no worse for wear after falling down at least. Stay where you are. I'm coming down to get you. What's wrong with teething Dill and Mint? I ignored this and scurried back toward the stairs down to the cloister, saying a short prayer in my head that I wouldn't run into any other sisters along the way. Eustace was likely the only woman who could wrangle Darcy when she was in such a state, but I certainly didn't want to be seen mucking it up by anybody else, even if they would have done no better. I sprinted across the cloister path and into the grass, where Darcy still lay flat on the ground with her arms outstretched. Ugh, that did hurt a bit. Please, nothing broken. Please, nothing broken. Can you stand? Firm in the faith just like you always say, Mum. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but I'm not your mother. Oh, how I wish for this addlement to end. This concoction certainly wasn't providing the kind of results her last one had. When I had stumbled into Darcy and Eustace in the garden, her proclamation had been esoteric, but pointed and dramatic. Here, in front of me now, she seemed full of spirits rather than spirit. An annoying drunkard like Flora had been in the Misericorde. We should get you back to your room. No, the night is young. I glanced up at the sun in the sky. Well, what would you like to do instead? I don't know. Something quiet? Out of the way? I winced as soon as I said this. Even someone that's in complete stupor could see through me, surely. Ahaha. I understand. Sure thing. Whatever you say, boss. Leave it to me to manage to offend someone in a completely altered state of mind, I thought to myself. Darcy propped herself up slowly, grunting along the way. My back hurts. You had quite a fall. Are you sure you're alright? I'm fine. I landed on my big old bum. Plenty of cushion. She shot away from me with surprising speed. Wait! Follow me! She was running with great haste towards the same hall the Superior's office was in. I panicked and followed her. If the Superior happened to step out and see this. Where are you going? Somewhere quiet and out of the way. It became clear that she was making headway to the cellar stairs. I gave chase. The cellars were certainly out of the way, but there was a very good chance Marta or any number of the others could be down here, and they'd all see what a bad job I was doing at taking care of poor Darcy. I froze. The Superior's door opened a crack. What's going on out there? Darcy had made it to the threshold of the stairs just out of what I assumed the Superior's view was. I, however, was smack dab in the middle of the path mid-sprint. I just visiting the cellars. It's dangerous to run on the stone. Yes, Superior. I would have thought Angela would have drilled that into you by now. I'm a slow learner, I'm afraid. Huh. I'm going back to bed. They try to keep things to a dull roar. Of course, Superior. How many of you are there? There isn't another blasted party for me, is there? Just me. Thank God. I'll see you at dinner, I'm sure. She shut her door with some emphasis. It was just in time, too, as Darcy had begun hopping down the stairs one at a time, stomping with both feet. The noises echoed to the entire cellar in waves. If anyone else was down here, our arrival couldn't have been more explicitly announced. Darcy, please! Follow me, follow me! She waited for me at the bottom of the stairs, staring through me with her glazed eyes. When I caught up to her, she bounded away again toward the rows of barrels deeper in the cellar. I jogged to keep up. As we passed the barrels we had smashed during Catherine's wake, I winced a little. The stone floor was deeply stained. What had we been thinking? Darcy disappeared into the maze of casks ahead of me. There was very little light here, save for the cold sunbeams let in through the grated holes around the edge of the cellar ceiling. Darcy! Where are you going? I told you, silly. Somewhere quiet and out of the way. Well, it doesn't get much more out of the way than this. Heh heh. I tried to follow her voice, but the echo was impossible to pinpoint. I was reminded of Eustace's bookshelves. The cellar felt impossibly large as I turned the corner after corner in search of the irascible Sister Darcy. In truth, we must have been going in circles. Hello, hello. She gave me quite a shock as I rounded one last corner to find her waiting. Hello. We stood in silence for a moment. There really must have been no one else here, I thought to myself. All I could hear was the low rumble of the wind outside and the slow creaking of the wooden casks. I was going to say desks. Well, here we are. Wherever here was. I had no earthly idea why Darcy had decided on the dank corner of the cellars after all that mad running about. Here we are. Her eyes were still not quite her own, but she looked more determined than I had ever seen her before. We stood in silence a little longer. I could hear what I assumed must be a rat or some other creature rustling in the walls around us as Darcy and I stood face to face. Was there something you wanted to show me here, perhaps? You could say that. I thought I saw one of the casks move out in the corner of my eye. What do you... She leaned forward suddenly, swiftly, and... I don't know, I sort of turned my head to the side instinctively, but not quickly enough. She planted her lips onto mine and grabbed my hands in one swift motion, yanking me toward her with some firmness. Darcy! I squirmed, but could not move back. I felt clammy and embarrassed, but worst of all, out of the casks really was moving. I was feeling too many things at once. I wanted to shove Darcy away and run, but I couldn't leave her behind with whatever monster was about to emerge from the barrel that was opening in front of me. Unfortunately, perhaps it was no monster that emerged from the wooden door that had swung open while Darcy had been attempting to kiss me. No, the situation was far, far worse than that. Oh, hello.
When you want to get off the darkest ground, but gravity pulls you straight down.